Member South Shore, St. Margaret's.
That was a wonderful speech by the last two Liberal members. I want to thank you. I'd like to start by saying the Irish have a saying, family is where love begins and never ends. For Martin Brian Mulroney, the love of family never ends. While the country mourns a transformational Prime Minister and the world mourns a great statesman, the family is mourning the loss of a devoted father of 4 and grandfather to 16, and a true life partner to Mila. And what a life partnership. He often said, without Mila by his side, without her love, support, and guidance, he would never have overcome the challenges he faced in life. She brought him not only immense love, but focus, discipline, and ability to work a room even better than he could. And Ben once wrote that while his dad was not always present, he was always a presence in their life. He was also present to many others and their lives, and we were blessed, many of us that have in this house, to have shared him with his family. Many of us were lucky enough to receive those famous calls from him and congratulate, console, catch up, or reminisce, or sometimes gossip. And in a tough personal time for him, Prime Minister Mulroney concluded his eulogy to his friend President Ronald Reagan this way, with a quote from the Irish poet Yeats. "Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say my glory was that I had such friends." In his terms, he would often say, you dance with the one that brung you. Friendship, loyalty, and family were the guiding tenets of his life. Upon winning the leadership the night of it, he stood up in front of all the delegates in the nation and said to MP Eric Nielsen, "Eric, I was not your first choice for leader, but you're my first choice for Deputy Prime Minister," instantly uniting the party in a divisive leadership. And I had the great honor of serving every single day in his government, from the start until the end when I was in my 20s. His focus on loyalty and friendship shaped the lives of all of us young political staffers who were lucky enough to serve in his government. In many of the reminiscences of Brian Mulroney's life, people have rightly referred to his many transformational accomplishments. And many have highlighted what he did. But I'd like to take a moment to speak about how he did it. A staple of his speeches as Prime Minister was that he often quoted the inscription in the Memorial Chamber in the Peace Tower, which says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." It started with that, a vision that for Canada to prosper, we need the world to buy what we make. And to achieve this consequential transformation, he had to govern not for a political term, but for future decades. And what Brian Mulroney possessed was a unique instinct in caring for people. Former Premier Bob Rae said that for Mulroney, all politics wasn't just local, it was personal. He was truly exceptional when it came to the fine art of making friends, winning allies, and creating loyalty. He was exceptional at bringing people with disparate opinions and perspectives together in pursuit of a common cause. He knew how to identify and marshal talent, and he was a master negotiator. Public life is first and foremost a people business. You must like people and want to help them if you're going to succeed in politics. And Brian Mulroney liked people, and he wanted to help. He wrapped that desire up with a heaping helping of vision, stoked with burning desire to do big, important things that made a positive difference for his country and our people. And then he cajoled, charmed, persuaded, and dared whomever he needed by the sheer force of his personality and the overwhelming muscle of his unique powers of persuasion and oratory. And most importantly, he knew instinctively that to achieve success, you must support your allies and friends when they are in need, even at a political cost to yourself. Their priorities were his, and he helped them get them done. He needed to understand why each person, each voter, each worker, each MP, every president or prime minister believed what they believed, what motivated them. He knew that to achieve a great Canada, If you want other nations to support yours in your need, you must support them in theirs. As the only Canadian Prime Minister to address a joint session of the U.S. Congress, he expressed that approach when he quoted Emerson in saying, "The way to have a friend is to be one." This was his secret sauce. For a Prime Minister to achieve great things also requires a great team and getting the most out of them. He attracted talent like few others. They believed in his vision for Canada, and he created a cabinet of Clark, Wilson, Crosby, Mazinkowski, Carney, McDougall, Flora, Charest, Mayer, McKnight, Andre Wise, Maas, Bouchard, Blais, and many, many more. He knew what area of government fit them best, then he let them get to work. He got the most out of them by letting his ministers lead their departments and drive the change forward. He trusted them, and they trusted him. He often said political capital was to be spent, not hoarded, and he spent much of that political capital in Atlantic Canada. He spent his formative educational years, the first years away from home in high school in New Brunswick, and then the university at St. FX in my province of Nova Scotia, where he joined the Tory Club. And he was first elected to the House of Commons in Nova Scotia. This gave him a special connection and understanding of my part of the country. Prime Minister Mulroney once said, "I consider myself a maritimer by baptism of desire," and so do we. He wanted to return Atlantic Canada to its rightful place in Confederation. The Atlantic Accord gave provinces the right for the first time to receive royalties for offshore resources. His government bought equity in Hibernia. Hibernia would not have happened otherwise. These two things are the direct reason that Newfoundland and Labradorians were able to get off equalization. Prime Minister Mulroney thought that regional economic development should actually be done in the regions and not in Ottawa's industry department. The creation of a COA based in New Brunswick accelerated growth as a result of billions of dollars of investments in our small and medium-sized businesses. The frigate shipbuilding contract in St. John, New Brunswick transformed the economy of southern New Brunswick. He gave the financial support to rebuild the entire Trans-Canada Highway that runs through that province, understanding that to get New Brunswick PEI and Nova Scotia's goods to market in Canada and the U.S. with free trade, a modern transportation system was required. He pushed for the PEI fixed link, the Confederation Bridge, over a lot of resistance because a province that produces perishables needed quicker, more reliable access to export markets. The creation of Sleman Park Corporation in Summerside was a vision that converted 200 civilian jobs at a military base to 5 times that today in an aerospace center for business. For Nova Scotia, Acid Rain Accord with the U.S. stopped the destruction of Nova Scotia's rivers, streams, and critical forest products. And the free trade agreement spurred Nova Scotia's exports to the U.S. and rapid growth in our beef, seafood, and dairy products. The result? Today, more than 70% of our seafood is exported, 50% to the United States. And this is why Frank McKenna, the former Premier Frank McKenna, said of Prime Minister Mulroney that he did more for Atlantic Canada than any other Prime Minister in history. And when the former Premier was asked by the former Prime Minister to comment on how his preparations for an introduction for an upcoming speech that Mr. Mulroney was giving, he was asking how it was going. Premier McKenna said, "It's a little too laudatory. I might have to scale it back." And to that, Mr. Mulroney replied, "Frank, you cannot be too lavish in your praise. I can handle a lot." So my fellow traveler, as a Mulroney political staffer, Mark McQueen, observed of Prime Minister Mulroney's approach to life recently when he wrote, "Love and honor your family. Be a loyal and steadfast friend. Seek out new friendships and experiences. Own your mistakes. Comfort others when they are down. Find a soulmate and always dance with the one that brung you. Play to your strengths. Let others shine. And live a life of consequence." I will conclude with Prime Minister Mulroney's own words. If you've read Prime Minister Mulroney's memoirs, you'll know that they are filled with extracts from his diaries as Prime Minister. And the final entry, June 27th, 1993, 2 days after he left office, reads as follows. Quotes, "I actually did govern not for good headlines in 10 days, but for a better Canada in 10 years. I paid the price in the media, hostility, and public disapproval, but I did so knowingly and willingly. Leadership is about courage, strength, and the resolve, often in the face of overwhelming criticism and adversity. It's about taking positions you believe to be in Canada's long-term interests and sticking to them. I'll miss the job, caucus, the House, the problems, the achievements, the excitement, but I've achieved a degree of serenity. I leave with a happy heart and a sense of fulfillment at having done much and at the best of times, having done my best for Canada. History is remembering you fondly today, as are we. Until we meet again, Prime Minister." Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Reprise de débat.
Resuming debate.